You know what's funny? Older men with a long history with women often don't even need to confess it. Their words do it for them. The same phrases pop up again and again like a broken record, and once you notice them, you can't unhear them. So, if you're dating after 60 and want to avoid the players hiding behind a charming smile, stick around. Today, I'll show you the 4 lines that give them away. And trust me, when you hear phrase number 3, you'll never look at casual conversations the same way again. Welcome back to Journey After 60. Around here, we talk about the real truths of love, dating, and relationships later in life, with honesty, wisdom, and maybe just a touch of humor. If reflections like this speak to you, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. It helps our circle of wisdom grow even stronger. So, let's start with the very first line. One that sounds charming at first, but often means exactly the opposite of what you think. Number 1, I don't do labels. It's one of the most classic phrases to ever come out of a man's mouth, especially a man who's had a lot of experience with women. I remember sitting at a coffee shop not long ago with a friend from college. She'd recently started seeing someone new. A man who seemed thoughtful, sweet, even generous. He called her often, wanted her around, and leaned on her emotionally when life got tough. But every time she asked a simple, honest question, "So, what are we?" his answer was always the same: "I don't really do labels." At first, that kind of answer can sound modern, even appealing. Who doesn't want love to feel free, uncomplicated, and natural? But if you listen closely, what you're really hearing is something psychology calls commitment avoidance. It's the anthem of men who want intimacy, but without the responsibility of defining it. He wants you to be his emotional partner, but not enough to actually call himself your boyfriend. It's ironic. He may want you to cook with him, comfort him at 3 a.m., be his safe space when the world gets too heavy, but the moment you ask to call it something, partner, boyfriend, companion, he pulls back as if the word itself is a cage. But this isn't freedom, it's fear. And importantly, it's not your fear, it's his. What's interesting is that I've seen this play out many times. A man who says, "I don't do labels," often has a long track record of using the same script. He repeats it because it works. It lets him keep the closeness on his terms. It's like attending a beautiful dinner party, sampling every dish on the table, but refusing to admit you ever sat down to eat. And this is where it matters deeply for those of us dating after 60. We don't have endless decades to waste in ambiguity. At this stage in life, clarity and dignity matter more than chasing someone who can't even offer a simple word of honesty. A truly mature man, one who's genuinely seeking meaningful connection in this season of life, doesn't hide behind vague phrases like this. He understands that words create safety, and safety is what allows real love to grow. So when you hear, "I don't do labels," pause and ask yourself, what is he really afraid of? Is it love or the responsibility of showing up consistently and being seen clearly? Because if he only wants the warmth of your presence without the truth of your title, what he's really saying is, "I want your heart, but I refuse to carry it." The truth is, the label isn't the problem. The label is simply a reflection of reality. The problem is when someone uses the absence of a label as a shield against commitment. That's not a foundation where love can thrive, especially not in this chapter of life. where honesty means more than charm, and where we've earned the right to ask for relationships built on mutual respect, not performances. And speaking of honesty, that brings me to another subtle sign, one that doesn't hide behind vague titles, but behind carefully guarded silence. Some men may not dodge the label, but they'll avoid something else entirely, their past. And that silence tells a story of its own. Number 2, we don't need to talk about the past. Nietzsche once wrote, "The past is not dead. It is only interpreted." A man who refuses to share it is not leaving it behind. He is quietly carrying it in a secret bag. That silence is not peace. It is concealment. There's a particular phrase I've heard from men who seem charming on the outside, but unsettled on the inside. We don't need to talk about the past. At first, it can sound wise. After all, why dwell on what's behind us when we can focus on what's ahead? Yet psychology calls this avoidant defense, a subtle way to protect one's image by hiding parts of a story that might change how you see them. The truth is, a man's past is not just a collection of old memories. It is the fine print of his character. To say it doesn't matter is like being handed a contract and told, "Don't worry about the details." And as we all know, the details are often where the truth is written. Philosophers have long warned us of the dangers of forgetting. In midlife dating and relationship advice for women, this matters deeply. At this stage of life, transparency is not optional. It is the foundation of love after 60. A man who cannot tell you about his old loves, his mistakes, even his losses, is not protecting you from pain. He is protecting himself from being fully seen. It's worth remembering, honesty about the past does not chain us to it. It frees us from it. When someone says, "We don't need to talk about the past," what they are really saying is, "I'm afraid you might not stay if you knew." And that fear often belongs to men who have lived fast, carrying more secrets than they are willing to admit. Have you ever heard a man dismiss his history with those exact words? How did it make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help another woman see through the silence and choose more wisely. Because as we grow older, when we seek the steady ground of love in later life, we cannot build on half-truths. To love without speaking of the past is like planting seeds in soil you've never bothered to turn. You may not notice the rocks beneath the surface until it's too late. And have you noticed, men who avoid their past rarely stop there. They often try to soothe the present with words that sound harmless, gentle, even warm. They fall from the tongue like a promise of peace, but in reality, they are often just a curtain, skillfully hiding what they don't want you to see. Number 3. I just go with the flow. Ah yes, go with the flow. That magical river where responsibility drowns and commitment floats away like a paper boat. When a man says, "I just go with the flow," what he often really means is, "I've gotten very good at keeping things casual, and I plan to keep it that way." From a psychological perspective, this is what researchers call a low-investment strategy. Men who have cycled through many short-term partners often lean on this mindset. It keeps everything light, flexible, and free of future obligations. In other words, it's the perfect environment for someone who isn't looking for a lasting relationship. Such men use this phrase like a shield. It keeps things comfortable, never defined, never planned. It allows them to drift from one relationship to another without leaving room for questions about the future. For them, the flow is not about harmony, it's about control. Because if you're always drifting, you can never demand an anchor. In dating after 60, in love later in life, this matters even more. We are not looking for a lazy current to carry us wherever it wants. At this stage, our hearts crave intention. We want someone who chooses a course and holds steady. Drifting may feel exciting when you're young, when endless years stretch ahead, but later in life it can leave you lost at sea. The truth is, love does not flourish in waters without direction. Love after 60 is more like gardening. It requires planting seeds, patience, and daily care. Without that, what grows isn't roses, it's weeds. When a man tells you to just go with the flow, what he is often really saying is, I don't want to put in the effort to build anything lasting. And so what first sounds like freedom is often just procrastination dressed in softer words. Delay quietly steals joy until you realize you've spent months or even years waiting for a wave that was never going to carry you to the place you hoped. And when drifting no longer works, you may notice these same men turn to the past, but in a way that makes it sound lighter than it really was. Number 4. We had a thing, but it wasn't serious. At first, it sounds like nothing, almost harmless. But in psychology, this is called minimization. Shrinking a past relationship into something fleeting, so it no longer looks like real evidence of how many connections actually existed. The truth is, what he brushes off with a casual phrase may have once been an entire world to another woman. Midnight phone calls, home-cooked meals made with care, even a heartbreak. By calling it not serious, he gets to control the narrative, protecting his image by making his past look lighter than it really was. Men who've been with many partners often say this line like they've rehearsed it. It reassures you, without being a full-blown lie. He's not denying the past, he's just blurring it. But as life has taught us, denying the weight of something doesn't erase its impact. The past always leaves a trace, whether he chooses to acknowledge it or not. And when it comes to dating after 60, this becomes something to pay close attention to. A man may genuinely believe that an old flame didn't mean much. But if you hear this phrase over and over, if every story seems to be minimized or swept aside, it's not just about the past, it's a pattern. And patterns tell the truth that words try to hide. That pattern often points to a fast-moving history, full of short-lived connections, the very opposite of the depth and stability many of us are seeking in love at this stage of life. There's a bitter humor in this phrase. It's like tossing aside an unfinished novel while insisting it was never really a book. But the pages are still there, and the story still happened. So what about you? Have you ever heard a man downplay his past in this way? Did it comfort you, or did it plant a seed of doubt? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story may be the very thing that helps another woman know when to guard her heart At our age, we understand that the seriousness of a relationship isn't measured by what's said after it ends, but by the weight it carried while it was alive. And when someone continually shrinks their own stories, they're not cleaning up their past. They're avoiding transparency. The patterns men create with their words can be read like a map. And the question is whether we choose to follow them or step away. So here we are, looking back at these phrases together. They may sound small, almost harmless, just words carried on the breeze of a conversation. Yet psychology reminds us that words are patterns, and patterns rarely lie. One phrase can be dismissed as coincidence, but when you hear 3, or even all 4 of them, you're not listening to chance anymore. You are listening to a history speaking through him. In senior romance and dating after 60, this matters deeply. At this stage of life, we carry both wisdom and tenderness. We know what it feels like to be deceived, and we know what it feels like to be cherished. Our task is not to fear men or to doubt love itself, but to listen carefully, to notice when words are protecting something rather than revealing it. And that is where our power lies. We are not powerless against charm or empty declarations. We've grown wiser than that. The gift of these years is that we no longer need to rush, no longer need to settle for less than honesty. When we hear these phrases, we can smile, we can nod, and then we can decide whether this is truly a man who will walk beside us with respect. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Truth is simple. Those who hide it make it complicated." If love is real, it does not need disguise. It shows itself plainly, quietly, and without excuse. Ladies, have you ever heard any of these phrases before? Which one struck you the most? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice might be exactly what another woman needs to hear tonight. And if today's conversation resonated with you, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who might need a gentle reminder to protect her heart. Together, we keep this circle of wisdom alive. Take care of your heart, and let love find you in its most honest form. Thank you, as always, for being here. See you in the next video.